People ask me, how did you grow so fast? I don't particularly love roofing, and I've never said this before, but I'm going to say it. And I couldn't hide.
Welcome to the first ever Cenvar Roofing and Solar podcast. We're glad that you could join us today. I have Chris Good on, and we're going to talk a little bit about the company, how he likes to run things, his backstory, so on and so forth. So, Chris, nice to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Ethan. Yeah, this is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Let's just jump right into it. And if you could just give me background of how Cenvar Roofing began. I know a little bit about the backstory, but for people listening as well.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of happened by accident. My dad did construction my whole life. You know, I grew up as a kid helping him on the jobs. Like, he started taking me when I was in elementary school, so he let me pound nails and pretend. And then as I got older, as a teen, I was actually working with him, especially in the summer times. And so I had this, you know, I'm not sure where it came from, but I had sort of an innate ambition as a kid even. Like, I knew that I wanted to, you know, I don't know. So I don't know how to characterize it exactly, but I wanted to have some sort of financial upward mobility, right? Yeah. I come from a family where everybody works with their hands and is blue collar, and I wanted to be able to have a solidly middle class life. So I just kind of thought, well, who makes money, right? And I thought, well, doctors do, and I kind of like biology. Right. So I decided to go to LU to study biology and pre-med, and my idea was I was going to become a doctor. But I had to pay my own way through school, and so that's a little difficult. And the first 2 years during school, in the summertime, I got a job at the local print shop. Seckman's Printing it was called back then. They've changed their name since. And that's where I was working in the summertime to make a little money and then go back to school. But after my junior year, my dad suggested that I kind of work with him or work under him a little bit, because he's been in construction his whole life, and he had started doing work for, you know, he spent a lot of his time when I was growing up working for a couple just developers and those types of projects. But then as he got older, he started working directly for homeowners. And he always had, it's very hard to find somebody good to do decks and additions and things like that.
Right.
And he always had way more work than he could possibly do. So he said, hey, you know, why don't you take some of my simpler projects and, you know, you can kind of do them in the summer instead of getting a job at a print shop.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's what I did. And
was that just for one summer, or was that for multiple summers?
No, that was just the summer after my junior year.
Okay. Yeah.
So what happened was I got to the end of the summer, and I was, you know, making decent money, and I thought I'd just take a year off, make a little money, and then go back and finish.
Right.
But in that year, well, first of all, the business kept growing a little bit. I hired a couple more people, started doing a little bit bigger projects. And the other thing that happened was I befriended a young doctor, and I saw what his life was like. And, you know, I was within shooting distance. I could see that the direction I was going, I could compete with him in earning power.
Yeah.
And maybe have not quite as hectic of a life.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I never went back to school, and so I never graduated. Yeah. Never got a degree, and I just kept on working in my construction business. And what happened was, I kept working, and eventually I was building houses. I built a few custom homes, but that really wasn't what I enjoyed. I enjoyed production and scheduling, and custom homes can be very slow because people change things a lot, and you know,
right.
I found that frustrating. So I much more enjoyed buying a lot, picking a plan, building a house, and then selling it. Like, here's what you got.
Yeah.
Buy it or don't, you know,
right.
kind of situation. So I did that for 8-9 years. until the housing. So there was a housing crisis that happened in the late 2010s. Like it started in some places like as early as 2006 maybe, but it hit here pretty hard in like 2008, 2009. And when it first started hitting, it hit the higher end homes first. So I was building like $400,000 to $500,000 houses.
Okay.
That market went away, so I built increasingly cheaper houses until that market was even not going well. And so I just was like, okay, this isn't working anymore. My golden goose is dead. What am I going to do now?
Right.
So foreclosures were starting to happen. So I started buying foreclosures and rehabbing them. And since the market was so bad, I wasn't really selling them. I just would put renters in them.
Yeah.
And in the course of that, I needed help. So I called the mason that used to work for me when I was building houses. His name's Juan. And I knew he didn't have a lot of work, and I knew he had lots of workers, and I figured that he probably had some people calling him looking for work or whatever. I just thought he might be in access to labor. So I called him up and said, hey, I need help. If you have any guys, he said, no, I don't. But I said, well, if you hear of anybody calls you looking for work, and you don't have any, send them my way.
Yeah.
So he called me and sent me this guy's number, and I called him, and that was Juan Villegas. So
Nice.
I hired Juan to help. By the way, Juan Villegas is he's a partner in the business now, and he's our director of quality control.
Right.
So anyway, I hired him, and it didn't take me very long to figure out that Juan was somebody special. I'll never forget the very first day he worked for me, or one of the first days he worked for me. I dropped him off at a house and gave him a whole list of things to do, like 10 different things. And I got him started on the first thing. And he called me I thought it was a whole day's worth.
Right.
He called me like an hour and a half, 2 hours later and said, all right, I'm done. What do you want me to do next? I'm like, well, go to the next thing on the list. And he's like, no, the whole list is done. Right. What do you want me to do next? And I'm like, okay. So I said, I'll be right over. And the whole way over there, I was thinking, yeah, this is going to look like crap. Like, there's no way, right?
Right.
And I get over there, and of course, it's all done really well. And I'm like, wow, this guy's amazing. So that was my introduction to Juan. But as I got to know him, he helped me rehab several houses. I found out he just moved here from Alabama, and I found out that there he had been actually a subcontractor, similar to like what we have. He ran a crew,
right,
and he knew roofing. And I thought, I've got trucks and equipment. I'm running out of money as far as buying these foreclosures. I can't keep doing this indefinitely. I got this guy who's really good and responsible and knows the roofing business. Why don't I just put an ad in the paper for roofing, and we'll do that until the market comes back.
Yeah.
So the housing market comes back, then we'll hang it up and go back to building houses.
It was temporary.
Yeah, it was
Completely
temporary. Yeah, exactly. And we named it Lynchburg Roofing because nobody was using it. I figured I'll build a website, and that'll be really good for SEO.
Right.
And that's what we'll do. And so it didn't take very long it probably took a year, honestly, for me to start realizing that there was opportunity in the roofing business, and where I realized that, hey, I'm going to make... Well, then the thing that happened in the next year and a half or so is that I met Dave Reed, who's now our CFO. It's like when people ask me, how did you grow so fast in such a short time, or so big in such a short time? That's it. It's luck.
Yeah.
If I hadn't run into... we've had... probably right now we have probably 150 Hispanic guys on the roof, and in the history of the company we've probably had 500. And I've often said, if any of them except one had been the first guy I hired, I would have went back to building houses. That's a 1 in a million, 1 in 500 shot.
Right.
And then meeting Dave, randomly, I played basketball with this group of guys at Timberlake Christian School.
Yeah.
And this guy who never comes, right? He's not a regular, but his guy I played basketball with at LU in the multipurpose center. His name is Bobby. Bobby, I owe you, Cenvar Roofing. He showed up one day. He's like, hey, we hadn't seen each other for like 10 years or whatever, and he's like, hey, I hear you're in roofing. Somebody says you're in roofing. Well, my youth pastor just moved into the area. He's not making enough money, just youth pastoring, and he needs a job, and he had a roofing company in South Carolina. Would you be interested in hiring him?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, okay. So he gave me Dave's number,
That's
and,
awesome.
And I met him at Starbucks and interviewed him, and he started for like $12 or $13 an hour,
Yeah.
partially doing paperwork and partially on the roof working.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how
That's
I
crazy.
think about it. And now, you know who Dave is. He's a freaking spreadsheet genius and
Right.
QuickBooks genius. He's a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, how many roofers are going to work for $12 an hour with a master's degree and be an Excel spreadsheet and data genius?
Right. Yeah. How much do you think of the business has been luck? I mean, you're talking about two people that you met by chance to start a business.
Yeah.
But then the rest of it, obviously you have in the company a lot of quality employees that we're hiring. Talk me through that process and what percentage you might think is luck, but what percentage you think is, okay, this person I hired is good. Now they're going to hire somebody that's good as well.
That's a good question. I mean, obviously it's a combination of luck and decision making.
Right.
When I think about how we got where we are, the two key things are meeting Juan, having Juan start it, and then meeting Dave. I think Dave was hire number 7 or something.
Really?
Yeah, and he's one of the most talented people here. So that is just that alone is an extreme amount of luck.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened really early, and I've never said this before, but I'm going to say it, is that in my other business, in my home building business, I didn't view myself as separate from the company. Like I was the company. I was the only one doing the books. You know, I had a couple guys helping me by the hour, but they weren't really involved in the business. And so it was difficult to be disciplined with reinvesting money. Like if you made $200,000 a year or $250,000 a year and you saw a toy you wanted, you just like, okay, I'm swimming in cash. I'm good. Well, what happened was when I hired Dave and I had him take over my books. So he's running. I can't hide, right?
Yeah. He
looks at everything. And so the other piece of that is that I was pitching him that we were going to build a business together. Like, hey, stay with me. I'm going to make it worth your while. We're going to go places. I'm going to reinvest in this business.
Yeah.
And so I was painting a vision of where we could go to him. But there was complete transparency. So I felt accountable. Like in my other business, in so many small businesses, there's not really any accountability from the owner to the business.
Correct. Yeah.
But I was writing promises. I was writing checks for the future, for future Dave to cash.
Right.
And I couldn't hide. Like he had full access to everything. So it held me accountable. Like I don't know that I would have had the discipline to not take money out. Like we were very strict and have been to this day. We don't take money out. We pay ourselves our salary and that's it.
Yeah.
And everything else goes back in the company. So that's a big key to what launched this, is that very quickly I viewed myself as working for the business and I felt responsible first to Dave, and now I feel responsible to the whole business. It's like I'm held accountable. It's like where if I kept everything close and I had my wife doing the books, we could do whatever we want. It's like, oh yeah, I want this new whatever.
Right.
And now we can't do that. So that's one thing. Yeah, that's probably the other main thing. And then it's just a matter of, the rest of it's just a matter of balancing the demand for labor. Like as you grow, you need more and more labor.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how picky to be, because if you're too picky, you can't grow, right? Because you can't find enough good people. But if you're not picky enough, like I think an organization full of good people attracts other good people.
Right.
And so if you are too loose, you'll drive your good people out because they get frustrated with the caliber of person.
Yeah. Changes the image of the company as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the balancing part, I would say.
Yeah. Transparency is what I'm getting from that whole story.
Yeah, it was huge.
Now, how does transparency then apply to others inside of the company? Obviously for myself, I'm seeing that work is getting done. I see the vision that we're sharing.
Yeah.
Obviously, the quarterly meeting updates that we have is good to have.
Yeah.
But also, behind that, we also have Pecan.
Yeah.
So, going to Pecan and what that has been for the company, and when did Pecan even get started?
I can't remember exactly how it got started, but at some point I realized that there's a very limited number of key things that have to be true for a business to be successful,
Okay.
it's a pretty short list.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that can be, all these things can be in good shape, and there can be still a lot of things that can be improved. But if these key things are good, then the business is healthy and strong. And so those key things are, if you have happy employees, if you have happy customers, if you're doing high quality work, and if you're making money, if all those things are true, there's still a lot that can go wrong. There's still a lot of logistical things and just practical things that are messing up, and maybe you're getting orders wrong and that's hurting efficiency.
Right.
Just a bunch of things. But if you have happy employees, you have happy customers, you're doing high quality work, and you're making money, then things are good. So we started looking for ways to measure all those things. If you can't measure it, then how do you know if it's happening?
Yeah.
So at some point, I don't know how many years ago, probably 6 years ago or so. I don't know how long we've had Pecan.
Yeah.
But at least 5 years, I would say.
Yeah.
I started looking for a company or an outside contractor that we could hire to just measure our employee satisfaction, and that's how we found Pecan.
Yeah.
And what Pecan is just a company that they survey each of our employees once a week. It's a very short survey, and it measures different areas of how they feel about the business. Maybe how they feel about leadership, how do they feel about their coworkers, how do they feel about the quality of our work, how do they feel about it's just they've identified like key areas to measure how happy the employees, how happy are they doing what they do. I don't know I forget how many categories there are, but they don't measure them all every week, but they measure one of those categories every week, 3 or 4 questions maybe, and they text it and they email it to them. And then there's also a place for them to leave comments, for what they think. So it's all anonymous.
Yeah.
So management, they can see which branch or like which big section it comes from, so you can kind of measure how different managers are doing with employee morale and things.
Right.
So that's how that came to be, is just that effort to measure those key areas. Obviously, Dave's good at accounting, so we know whether we're making money or not, which it's amazing. I think that's maybe one of the problems that a lot of small businesses have, is that they're not ultimately very good at that, because it gets pretty complicated to figure out whether you're actually making money or not.
Right.
Just because you have money in the bank doesn't mean you're making money.
Yeah. Now, there's key things. You listed off 4 of them. Does that go for any business, or is that a business that has a growth mindset? Do you think? Well,
I think it goes for any business.
Yeah.
I mean, if any one of those things is wrong,
right,
your business is in some kind of trouble.
Right.
Like, because it's whatever, whether you're a service business like we are, or whether you're selling a product or whatever it is that you're selling, right? If you don't have quality, because it could be a quality product, it could be a quality service, it could be a mixture of the two. Kind of the deal that we have is a mixture of the products that we sell and the service. I look at us as mostly selling service, because there's a limited number of shingle manufacturers. Anybody can buy it. It's not proprietary at all.
Yeah.
The only thing that's hard to replicate is the service and the quality of the installation, I guess. We actually had a TV commercial about that one time, where, because the products can be good, but the problem is it's how well are they assembled, right? Yeah. It's like the TV commercial was, it was with a bunch of like boxes labeled Ford and wheels and just boxes, like in a customer's driveway. Yeah. We said, if your car was delivered in pieces in your driveway and you had to pay somebody to assemble it, do you think it would matter who you paid to assemble it? Because one of the things we used to get from customers when I was selling is, well, the other person's supplying the same material. Yeah, but it matters who puts it together.
Right.
Just because, you want somebody who knows what they're doing to put your car together, if that's the way you bought a car.
Exactly. Yeah. That kind of reminds me, we've gotten calls and such in our call center about people who go with the Joe Schmo or 2 chucks in a truck to put their roof together. What advice would you give for the people that are trying to save money, and then also why prices might be higher for a higher quality company?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, one of the things that I would say to our customers is that although we may not be the cheapest initially, we're the cheapest if you look at it in dollars per year of service. Yeah. So that's the issue, is that if it's not put together, I mean, it's happened 6 or 7 times now where that I can remember. And I'm not even directly involved anymore, but from when I was, it's happened 6 or 7 times where a customer, we bid a roof, they went with somebody cheap, and then like within 2 years, we went back and did that roof again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's not about initial cost.
Right.
You know, if you can spend $10,000 for a car that will go 100,000 miles, or you can spend $20,000 for a car that will go 300,000 miles, which is a better deal?
The second one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about dollars per year of service. It's not about dollars per roof.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. Cool. Now, as far as saving money, when I first came into the roofing industry and was learning about it, I heard about layover shingles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a company, what would you say about layover shingles? Do you suggest it ever, or are we always going for either a repair or replacement?
The only time we will do layovers, yes.
Yeah.
The only time it makes sense is when dollars per year of service isn't the most important thing.
Right.
And so it's rare that we would probably, I don't know how many layers we do. We do thousands of roofs a year, and I think we might do 1 or 2 or 3 layovers, because if you're looking for, like in some situations, because it's not even an option.
Yeah.
The upfront cost is the most important thing, because they don't have any options, right?
Yeah.
So, because you can't spend 30% more for 50% longer roof life if you don't have the 30% more.
Right.
But in that case, they're probably not hiring us most of the time. I believe that if you're looking at dollars per year of service, then you're always better off doing a tear off. I mean, one of the things that I used to always say when I was selling is that, hey, we service some of the biggest, not HOAs, property management companies in the area, and their only interest is money. They're literally, they own huge apartment complexes, and the only thing they care about is ROI.
Yeah.
They aren't doing layovers.
Yeah. That makes sense. Cool. Now, as far as like salespeople go, obviously it's important to have salespeople that are equipped and able to give the information to the customer, making sure that they have the best, make the best decision. When we are hiring salespeople, what are we looking for? And sometimes, I mean, obviously you're not going to know the extent of how well a person is going to do until they're hired.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So I can tell you, we're looking for somebody who has integrity, because it's possible to. So that's another thing that we pride ourselves in, is telling people when they don't need a new roof.
Yep.
And we've shocked a lot of people like that by, they call us out. They maybe we're the 4th estimate, and we're the first company that comes along and says, "Hey, you don't need a roof." So integrity is the first thing, because I just believe that in the long term, integrity is always going to win. Yeah. And then just somebody who's genuine and personable, and responsible enough to show up on time. Yeah. And smart enough to retain information. They've got to learn about how a roof works and be able to answer those technical questions about ventilation and how it works, and be able to compute it and then figuring the area of a roof, and some of these more cut up roofs can be a little bit difficult. Yeah.
For sure. Now, you mentioned integrity, and our company has 7 core values. Yep. How did those core values come about?
So we, about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we started following the what is it? EOS system, which stands for Entrepreneur Operating System, I think. Okay. But it's a business management system that was written by a couple guys. It's pretty intuitive, actually, but it kind of helps give you some structure and a framework within which to manage and think about your business. Yeah. As part of that, we have quarterly meetings, and when you first start, you one of the things you set out to do is, why do we exist? It's a process of setting goals, but you define your customer. What is it exactly that we do? What is it that we don't do? Yeah. How do we operate? And part of one of the other things you do is set your core values. Like, hey, what is it that's really, really important to us? So, as a part of getting started in the EOS system, and traction is the other term that is the name of the book. That describes the EOS system. Is coming up with your core values. So we, as an executive team, sat down and thought about it and came up with them.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. One of the other things I want to talk about was as a growing company, we're looking for employees, obviously, that are wanting to grow themselves.
Yep.
What do we have in place for our employees to grow?
Well,
or what are we looking towards in the future to even implement more ways for our employees to grow?
So one of the things we do is have a program where we'll buy all the self-improvement books that an employee wants. So we have book accounts with Audible. Every manager has a book account with Audible, and they buy. So there's actually a list of required books for certain positions. That's one way, and then professionally, like some of the management, we've sent them to like Jocko Willink's leadership training. We're looking for leadership training for our sales manager right now. And then it's it's mentorship, you know?
Yeah.
So, but other than that, it's like, I think that there's a culture here of growth and, challenging each other. Cause my vision is not just professional growth, but I want people to think about why it is that they're alive. Like, what are we doing here? Right? Is it just about making as much money as we can and dying?
Right. Yeah.
No, I think if that's your view of the world, then you're probably not very joyful.
Yeah.
And I was listening to somebody or reading something recently where I know it was one of the books I was just reading, and he just said, the purpose of life, he in his opinion, the purpose of life is not happiness or even necessarily avoiding pain.
Yeah.
The purpose of life is fulfillment and joy, and in my opinion, that is only found in how we impact others. So that's why it's really important to me that we cultivate that growth mindset, and we challenge each other to grow. There are other things that we do. We have something where it actually. So one of the ladies that was actually the lady that was running the culture committee.
Yeah.
Transferred from this company to one of our other companies, and so it died for a short time, but we just reinstated it. So that's one way. It's like we have exercise challenges. They organize get-togethers for the different branches and the different teams to socialize, and then book reading, and then just mentoring. It's just like, but that's something I'm always thinking about. I think it's because that is so important to me. In fact, I would say that's probably the most important thing to me is me specifically serving our team and challenging our team to grow.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for ways. I think we could do better at that, because I look at that as my primary mission. Because if I can serve our team and help our team grow, then I don't have to worry about our customers.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, because it directly impacts the customer's experience as well.
Exactly. So, that's something that I need to look for more ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for myself, being hired on and seeing the quality of people, it kind of goes back to what you were saying with, we want to find a good balance of not being too stingy to hire somebody that's quality.
Yeah. That's the other thing is like, it's hiring good people and then trying to decide which people who may be on the edge can grow.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I struggle with is so we're business, and one of the things that I have said before is we're not a halfway house. So I am here. I look at it as my mission to serve our people and to help our team grow, but it's still somewhat exclusive. And that's a little bit of a weird, I haven't quite sorted that all out in my mind, because at some point a team member is damaging the other team too much and damaging our ability. Because at the end of the day, even though I'm not in this for money, we do need to make some, and we do have, every employee has bills to pay, right?
Right.
So that matters. Yeah. So that's one of the interesting things. I definitely am 100% settled in my mind that my mission in life is to serve this company, serve the team within this company.
Yeah.
and helping them grow as people.
Yeah.
Some of the finer points of like I've always said, that's the only part of business that I don't like. I love business, all of business.
Yeah.
The only part of, no, not all of business. There's only one piece I don't love, and that is when I have to eliminate a team member.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I abhor it, but it's necessary sometimes, because, yes, I mean, some people just will sow discord.
Right.
But that's the only part I don't like.
Yeah. Would you say that's the number one stress maybe of the position, like what you're thinking about constantly?
I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say, it is the biggest stressor, yes, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I only think about it constantly when I know I have to, like when it's coming up,
right?
And it doesn't come up that often.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Not specifically eliminating someone from the team or having to fire anyone, but I mean like just that growth mindset of like making sure people are in a right spot and they're enjoying.
Yeah. No, I don't look at it as stress at all.
Yeah. Cool.
No, I don't know why I'm not stressed, but I enjoy, like, I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love it. I would do it for free.
Yeah.
So I don't find it stressful. No, it's a much positive. Sometimes it's frustrating a little bit when one of the frustrating things, and any manager has had this experience, but one of the frustrating things is when all you do is think all day about how to make things better for everybody. Yeah. And then you get accused of being, a selfish prick.
Right.
And you're like, dude, or you get accused of doing something that's bad for somebody. Right.
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm perfect. Shoot, I struggle with ego like everybody else. Yeah. I'm not saying that, but there have been instances where specifically what I was being criticized for is like, I was trying to do the exact opposite. That can be a little frustrating. Yeah. It might be a little, I wouldn't say stress, but it can be a little frustrating when you get criticized for working really hard to help whoever it is that is criticizing you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen a lot either.
Yeah.
It's probably, I can, in the last 12 years, it's happened 2 or 3 times maybe. I heard about somebody, criticizing me for something when I was really doing it specifically to try to help them.
Yeah, that makes sense. What then takes up most of your like mental space throughout the day as a owner of a company?
Trying to solve problems.
Yeah.
Thinking about what's not working right and trying to devise a way to make it work more smoothly. So, I mean, like the longer we exist, the better we get at it, but we're still constantly looking for that's one of the exciting things about working here, I think, but that's also one of the frustrating things about working here is that we're dynamic. We're always looking for a better way, and we are constantly improving, but that translates into a lot of change.
Yeah.
And I think the rate of change is slowing, as we hit a little bit bigger scale, but there is still change, and that's why we're good, but that's also why I think, it can be frustrating to try to keep up with. Like you do it one way, like, oh, and you get corrected. Oh yeah, that was last week. We changed. Don't you remember? It was communicated, and trying to keep up with that volume of communication.
Yeah.
Which is why we have the dedicated channels for the different positions and history so that you can review. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as I've gotten to know the company and just figure out professionally how things are going, it's been very interesting that it's like, oh yeah, things aren't set in place. And like you're saying, 1 week it might be this, 1 week it might be something completely different. And being able to be malleable and adapt to that change is really important.
It's like we're like a dog hunting for the scent. We're just casting about, like looking for this is better, and then maybe this might work a little better, and then it's like, but it's this just constant incremental improvement.
Yeah, for sure.
And early on, it was, I'm sure, way more frustrating because as we grew, the changes were a lot more than they are now. Now I feel like they slowed down quite a bit, but there's still changes, as you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now, I guess as we're wrapping up, does that say recording is stopped?
Nope.
Okay.
It's just blank screen.
Oh, no. That's so sad. Oh gosh.
It probably just stopped 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, as we close up, I had a few questions about if you were to go back and choose maybe a different industry or do something different specifically as you were growing the roofing business that we have today, what would you change, if anything?
Well, I mean, there have been some mistakes,
Right.
that I would change. So we got, well, is there another business? I don't know. I mean, people always ask me what I love about roofing, and the truth is, I don't particularly love roofing. I love business,
Yeah.
and I love building an organization, and now, see, early on, that's the other thing, like who I am. I've matured myself just in the course of growing this business. Like when I started it, I wasn't necessarily interested in serving people so much. I was younger. I was just about making money, more. But about 8 years ago, as I got older, I turned 40. No, 9 years ago. And I started thinking about what am I, I'm getting close to the halfway point. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? What's the purpose? So, and then I read several books that got me thinking about, it's really just Jesus' teachings, honestly. It's the upside down kingdom and the joy of service to others. So, that's what I enjoy. I don't particularly enjoy roofing necessarily. There was a business opportunity, there was a need. Obviously, it has to be a need in the marketplace. And it's what I fell into. If I think about what business I would go into otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there are others that that have appealed to me, but it's kind of irrelevant because it's not it's not the specific business that interests me. It's more the building an organization, and now for the last 8 years, I've discovered the joy that really is a lot more joy in serving people than just looking out for myself. Every time I find myself getting really unhappy, with the exception of something going wrong with my kids or my wife, it's always me being selfish. Every time I start getting upset, I'm like, wait a second, it's just me being my ego kicking in. I'm so much happier if I just focus on serving other people joyfully and managing. It's I'm not able to do it, but to the degree that I'm able to stay humble and unselfish, that is the measure of how joyful I am.
Yeah, the selfish versus
selfish. And as soon as I start getting proud and selfish, I start getting unhappy.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
But mistakes that I would change. So everything that we tried worked.
Yeah.
And I think we thought we were invincible maybe, and we weren't really doing market study before entering a new market. And when we entered Richmond, we entered it exactly the wrong time. A huge hailstorm had just come through, like a couple years before, 2 years before, and all these out of town guys come in and do there was massive areas that had all been come in and replaced as a result of hail right before we went there. And so then all the storm chasers left, and the local guys were now fighting. We're all fishing in a smaller river. So the river, it was just a dumb move. Yeah. Right. And we lost a lot of money there early on it was just not a good move. Yeah. So, and then we also tried to plant a branch in Farmville, and that market was too small, among other things. So that was a mistake too. But all in all, it's gone really, really well.
Yeah. That's really cool. Sweet. Cool. Well, I have some last minute, just some fun questions that actually Jamie came up with.
Okay. All
right. So she had asked, do you do anything to maintain your beard that everyone talks about? I mean, people come up to you and say, "Oh, you're the guy on TV with the awesome beard."
I've actually shortened it way up.
Yeah. Man. Do you do anything to maintain it?
No, I go to Jake at Diamond Cuts and he shapes it up nice, and I put a little beard balm in it, but no, not really.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then other question, we'll see if we even keep it in this. Do you work out?
Yeah, I do work out.
How often do you work out?
4 or 5 times a week.
Cool.
My schedule's haphazard. Yeah. So, just the nature of, because you asked me one time a little bit earlier, like what I do during the day.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I don't really have a job in the company, but things come up and that I have to do. Like tomorrow morning, I have to be in Charlottesville at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me. It would be, if I had a regular work hours, I could build a schedule and have a regular workout schedule.
Yeah.
But I always manage to get in at least 4 workouts. You know, I try to do at least 3 strength training days and a couple more cardio days. Health is important to me.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
I figure healthy body, healthy mind. And you know, the other thing is I don't ever intend to retire. As long as I can think clearly,
Yeah.
I'm going to work.
There you go.
And hopefully, I'm sure I won't know when I can't. One of the things that they joke with me about upstairs is that how will I know when I can't think clearly?
Yeah.
I don't know how I.
You're just never going to stop then.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
never going to quit. That's awesome. Cool. And then last question. Do you have any hobbies outside of work?
Working out.
Working out. That's the hobby. There you go.
Yeah.
I heard that you sing, or I guess you don't sing professionally or anything, but
no
singing or music or anything?
No. Well, I did. No, not recently.
Yeah.
I studied vocal performance. I was a double major.
Okay.
And I studied vocal performance, and I did a little bit of singing, not much really, since I started this company.
Yeah.
The only thing I did was Timberlake Baptist Church used to have a Christmas spectacular, and I used to sing in that every year. And then I got to where it was too much of a chore, and I was like, yeah. It's taking time from between my family and working out and this. It's pretty much takes all my time.
Yeah.
Traveling, I like motorcycles. You asked me, yeah, I like motorcycles.
Yeah. You went on a trip recently to Alaska, right?
Yep.
And motorcycled around.
Yep.
How was that?
It was good. Yeah, we it was a couple guys from here, Alan and Ryan and I and Ryan's brother. We just bombed around. Didn't really have too much of a plan. Camped.
Yeah.
We went. One of the fun things we did was rode up the whole way up to we went up the Dalton Highway, a whole way up to Purdue Bay.
Okay.
Which is like tundra up there. We saw some like muskox.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
Caribou and stuff up. Like it just changes completely. Like Alaska down around Fairbanks and Anchorage is really mountainous and beautiful. But then you go north on Dalton Highway, about halfway up, you cross the last mountain range, and it turns into like flat tundra. And
that's wild.
It got cold too. We were in June, and it was like 28 up there.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, I don't have any other questions, but I appreciate you coming on the podcast, answering some things.
Who else are you going to interview here?
Not sure yet. I think I'm going to go.
You got to get Dave.
Dave just sit here all stiff. I was thinking about just doing various positions inside the company, maybe some salespeople, maybe even Jamie. She has that customer interaction and stuff, just to get a look at like what we're doing internally and the people that we've hired on, and their experiences as well. But yeah, it's just kind of be a trial and error basis. And as we post this, hopefully people have questions and comments. If you have anything else that you want to ask him, or we can do a second part here, go ahead and leave those below as well. But for the most part, it'll just be whatever people are interested in.
Awesome.
Yeah, but cool.
Thanks. You're good at this, Ethan, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, it felt pretty natural.
It. Yeah, I enjoy the interaction with others. So
you're going to give Joe Rogan a run for his money.
Right. Hey, Joe Rogan, I'm coming after you.